There are lots of financial talking heads out there, but there's only one who's local to Tucson. Welcome to Saving with Silverman. Mark Silverman is a certified financial planner, and he's here to help you with your financial questions. Today, we'll try to educate you about the financial world and encourage you to think of solutions to your financial goals. So, let's get started. Saving with Silverman starts now.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. Mark Silverman's on the radio. Mark, of course, you're a certified financial planner, professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman and Associates. And first of all, Mark, it's always good to be with you.
Oh, Ron, always happy to be here as well.
We have a lot of interesting things to talk about today, but first I want to tell everybody how they can get in touch with your office, and there's no need to talk to anybody today. You don't have to worry about that. Just go ahead and call this number, or you can text and leave your contact information. That's all you need to do. 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. Someone in Mark's office will get back in touch with you, and then you can set a time to come in and have a conversation with Mark Silverman. Not only listen to him here on the radio, but talk with Mark face-to-face. No obligation, no cost for that. 520-333-7601. Again, you can call or text wherever you are in Tucson and all over southern Arizona. Mark has folks come in from all of those areas. Just what the doctor ordered. Let's talk a little medical talk today here, Mark. I'll give you the symptom, and you tell all of us what financial prescription you would write for the patient. Okay, Doc, you ready?
Let's give it a shot.
Patient presents, this is doctor talk, patient presents with dizziness. I guess the patient shows dizziness caused by following the up and down volatility of the stock market. What would you prescribe for that person?
Well, we've certainly seen a lot of this since the end of January. We've seen the markets extremely volatile, and everybody thinks this is going to continue. But, if you're in the market, you're going to experience volatility. The markets just don't always go up. There's going to be volatility. The markets will go up and down. You just need to have the right diversification and right mix, as well as making sure that you're taking the right amount of risk. So as long as you understand the risk that you're taking, it shouldn't come as a surprise if the markets do go up and down. However, if you are experiencing a lot of volatility in your portfolio and you think you're in a very conservative portfolio, maybe you're not necessarily in as conservative portfolio as you maybe thought.
Okay, so Mark, you're the financial doctor here, and you have a patient come in with problems with paralysis in their financial decision-making process because they feel they have too many investment options to choose from. What would you tell that person?
Well, that's a hard symptom to overcome. We have people that'll come in and maybe they've met with multiple advisors, and sometimes people just have a hard time making a decision. It's almost like buying a computer. If you wait to buy a computer because prices are going down, you'll never make a decision because prices continue to go down and the technology constantly gets better. So you need to just find someone that you're comfortable with, that you think is going to do a good job, and make a decision, because doing nothing sometimes can be a big detriment to your overall financial picture by just sitting and doing nothing and holding on to what you have and not monitoring it, etc. So making a decision is a hard one, but do your due diligence. Figure out who you want to work with, interview as many people, ask the right questions until you feel you have a comfort level. And then once you do, pull the trigger.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. If you'd like to check out Mark's business, you can go to savingwithsilverman.com. Just what the doctor ordered. That's our topic of discussion today. And Mark, let's suppose that you're the doctor and a patient mentions high levels of anxiety from sitting around and watching the news every day.
Well, I can certainly understand that. I can tell you, I get a lot of my news from the internet now. If you watch the news, all they're trying to do is stir things up. What they report, in my opinion at least, is not really news. And so I guess the term is fake news these days. But, get away from watching that. Go out and enjoy things. If you are going to get news, get it from reliable sources. You can sort through news articles through the internet rather than turning on the TV. And it seems like it's the same thing every day. But try to disconnect if you can.
Okay, here's another one, another situation, and I'm sure you've seen this a lot. A patient comes in suffering from high blood pressure resulting from anger about bad financial advice that they received in the past. What do you tell that person?
Well, as I tell people that are starting a relationship with me, if they've been burned in the past, they can't hold that against me. But I certainly do understand and try to relate to that and try to get them through that. And, those decisions that they made were partly their responsibility too, even though they might have been sold something and weren't given all the facts when they purchased it. But do your due diligence this time, making sure that you're asking the right questions so you don't get burnt again, and make sure that you go with your gut. If your gut's telling you something's not right, it probably isn't. And so I would just say, keep interviewing other advisors, kind of like I just said earlier, until you find a comfort level or somebody that you feel is qualified that's got your best interest at heart, not theirs.
Mark, we talk all the time on the show about people who lie awake at night during their retirement years worrying about the possibility of outliving their money. Nobody wants that. And I would imagine that might be maybe your number one complaint from folks that you meet with. A patient comes in complaining of losing sleep already, and this person is not retired yet because he or she is retiring soon and worries about not having enough money. That's that old fear that everybody has. What's your prescription for that patient?
I would just say you need to have a plan. I mean, too many advisors out there are not really advisors. And I've said this before, they're financial salespeople. They're there simply, and if you listen to other radio shows out there, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, or you already do. They're there just to sell you a product, whether it be an annuity or a mutual fund, et cetera. They're there just to sell you a product. And at the end of the day, they don't know if that's going to solve your problem or not. There's no planning that's involved. It's selling. So what we do with all of our clients is build a comprehensive financial plan, looking at your goals, your objectives, what it is, where you are now versus where you're trying to go, and what's the best way to do it, and make sure that what you're trying to do is even achievable. So unless you have a plan, you are going to have sleepless nights and worrying and that sort of thing, and that's no way to either live your life or live your life in retirement, especially. So I would say get with somebody that's willing to put the time in to put a plan together for you. And what I mean by a plan is a comprehensive financial plan, not a sales Excel spreadsheet that's trying to sell you an annuity or something along those lines.
So important to have a plan. I mean, that is the important word, PLAN. And the planning process is called the Financial Physical with Mark Silverman at Silverman and Associates. Why not come in for a physical very soon? Sit down and have a conversation with Mark. And Mark, what happens when they come in and see you, the financial physician?
Well, Ron, I've never been called that before. Well, just like you get a second opinion on your health, why wouldn't you get a second opinion on your wealth? So whether you're a do-it-yourself or already working with someone, this is now your opportunity to come in and have this process that we call the financial physical. Do you know what your investments are costing you? If you're still working, are you on track to have the type of retirement you've always envisioned? Or if you're already retired, do you know if you or your spouse are at risk of running out of money while trying to maintain your current lifestyle? I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. In this initial meeting, we'll address issues of importance to you, provide an overall view of your situation, and give you some general advice on what needs to be completed. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who is actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson. And the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. Just as you want to reach a healthy life from a physical standpoint, you also want to reach and maintain great financial wealth. So our financial physical is just what the doctor ordered. We try our best to help everyone, however, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting to the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601 is your number to call, or you can text to that number, 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman, in case you have not joined us before, if you're a regular listener, you already know this. Mark is a certified financial planner professional, the founder and managing member of Silverman and Associates in Tucson. Wherever you are in southern Arizona, you can feel totally comfortable coming in and having a friendly face-to-face conversation with Mark about your your situation because he can help. Call or text 520-333-7601. Get the financial, physical, and Mark will help you put together a plan. 520-333-7601. You're listening to Saving with Silverman with the one and only Mark Silverman.
You finished school and worked hard to get your first job. You told yourself you'd save for retirement, but that old jalopy you bought when you were 16 broke down, so you bought a new one. You started to save, and soon you bought your first home. Then came pets, kids, and your world changed some more. You worked hard to provide for your family. You made sure your kids got a good education. You might be sending them to school right now, or maybe it's the grandkids' turn. And of course, you're now making sure your parents are looked after. Through the years, you lovingly sacrificed for your family. Now it's time to take care of you. Love others well by taking care of yourself. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman to discover how to build a financial plan that'll continue providing for you and the ones you love for years to come.
Thanks very much for listening to Saving with Silverman today with Mark Silverman. Mark's on the radio every week talking to folks all over the southern Arizona area. A lot of folks come in for a conversation with Mark Silverman. Some become clients, some don't, but whatever. There is no obligation for coming in with a conversation. It's not going to cost you anything either. You can call 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. If you prefer, a lot of people text these days instead of calling, and you can certainly do that. Shoot a text to 520-333-7601. Just be sure to include your contact information, 520-333-7601. Contact information and your first and last name. Mark, I know that in this business there are lots of red flags, and there are certain things that ought to raise red flags about your finances. I'm talking to our listeners out there. Mark, one question I guess that folks need to answer is, can they name all the investments in their portfolio? And maybe if they can, they're probably not very well diversified because, you know, that's one of the reasons they need a good financial advisor like you who can help them keep up with all these things.
Yeah, I mean, having a diversified portfolio includes many different things, whether you're using individual securities, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or ETFs. You should have a well-diversified portfolio, and that portfolio should be adjusted. The risk should be adjusted as you're moving closer into retirement and through retirement. And so you also want to have, even more diversification in, value versus growth, small cap versus large cap. Different legs of bonds, short-term, intermediate-term, long-term, et cetera. So if you just have one or two things in your portfolio, such as somebody just sold you a product, it's probably not a well-diversified portfolio. So, and I'm not saying you need to have 50 things in your portfolio, but you should have a decent amount so your portfolio is always diversified.
Okay, let's talk about meeting with your financial advisor. The question for our listeners out there is, if you have a financial advisor in the first place, how often do you meet with him or her? And if that's not very often, that should be a red flag for you.
Sure. You should be meeting with your advisor at least annually. I can tell you we have different clients and different scopes of service. So we meet with our clients on a regular basis. Some we meet with, 4 times a year. Some we meet with 3 times a year, twice a year, and then some we only meet with once a year. So it just depends on the level of service and what we're trying to accomplish. But you should be meeting with your advisor at least annually. If there's a lot going on with your portfolio, or if there's a lot of concerns in your plan, you're getting close to retirement, you should be meeting more often than that.
Okay, another red flag possibly is if your account balances constantly move up and down. Should you be worried about that?
Certainly, given the level of volatility that we've seen, your accounts over time should be moving up on a regular basis. However, like I just said, given the volatility since late January, the markets are volatile. There's a lot of ups and downs. So depending on how much equities you have in there, that's going to be affected. Even bonds to certain extents are going to be volatile too because of interest rates moving up as well. So it just depends, but you should have a good idea as far as over time, the account should be growing. If you've gone years without your account growing, you're not taking any money out, that's not a good sign. So meeting with your advisor on a regular basis, whether that's annually or 4 times a year, whatever it might be, or somewhere in between there, is going to help alleviate that concern as far as keeping you in the know as far as what's going on with your accounts.
If you're hoping to retire and at least, maintaining your lifestyle, or maybe you want to do some things that you haven't been able to do when you retire, how much income are you going to need to maintain your lifestyle in retirement? Now, if you don't have any clue at all about that, that could be a very big red flag.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the crux of what we do as far as our planning. We try to help our clients and figure out what they're going to need. If they're already retired, it's a little bit easier. But if they just are soon to be retired or they're a few years away from retirement, putting a number on that and trying to figure out what that's going to be is a process that we help our clients with. But without knowing that, because we don't know what you spend, how can we run the numbers to determine if you're going to run out of money or not? So without that, somebody asking that, I'm amazed when clients come in and they say, our other advisor never asked us that. How could they possibly project if you're going to run out of money or not if they don't even know how much money you're spending? So that's a big red flag for us.
Okay, one more question I want to ask you here, Mark, and we're talking about red flags and your retirement planning, or at least your thinking about retirement. If someone asks you to describe your retirement plan, the question is, could you do it? If you can't, that's probably a red flag.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a different vision for retirement. Some people want to, what we traditional sense of they're going to retire, they're not going to work anymore, and they're going to enjoy their golden years traveling and spending time with family and friends, et cetera. Some people may want to continue doing what they're doing, but on a lower scale, maybe cutting back some of their hours. Some people may want to still do stuff, but maybe it's a totally different career path or something totally different that they've ever done. Maybe they want to spend more time, in religious organizations, donating their time to church and synagogues, those sorts of things. That's always an option too. So everybody has a different vision of what retirement looks like. Some people never want to retire. They want to keep working as long as they can, and that's okay. What we're trying to aim for is what we call a work optional lifestyle, working because you want to, not because you have to. And so everybody's got a different vision. And so what we try to do is really understand that vision so we can come up with a plan that's going to work to make sure that they're going to be able to have the type of retirement, whatever that looks like, that they envision.
Well, Mark, I know that there are a lot of people out there listening today, listening to the radio show, and a lot of red flags have popped up. And certainly you can help those folks alleviate those concerns. What happens when someone comes into your office for a little help?
Well, with your first-time listener to the show, you've heard me for a long time. If anything I've said makes sense or resonates with you, this is now your chance to come in and have a conversation with me in my office to go through this process we call the financial physical. I can assure you I will not be trying to sell you investment or insurance products. I repeat, this is not a sales meeting. Rather, we're going to discuss your values and goals in a way, honestly, you probably never have. This consultation is designed for both individuals as well as couples. However, if you are married, it is mandatory that both spouses attend this initial meeting. So whether you're still working or already retired, this is a great opportunity to see what it looks like to work with someone who's actually required to have a fiduciary responsibility to look out for your best interest at all times. As part of the financial physical, we will discuss your cash reserves, debt if you have any, insurance, all types, and how to best allocate your assets. And we'll even benchmark where you are now financially compared to where you want to be, so you have an even better perspective of what's required to achieve your goals for the reasons that are important to you. This will become the foundation for developing a plan that gives you the highest probability of making that happen. This meeting will be valuable to you whether or not we decide to work together. There is no cost or obligation for this initial appointment. However, it is best suited for people who have saved at least $250,000. And as you probably are aware, I am a certified financial planner professional, and I believe the only one locally here on the radio in Tucson, and the going hourly rate to meet with a CFP such as myself can cost as much as $300 an hour. So this is a tremendous value and chance to finally get your financial house in order and keep it that way. And your only commitment is an hour or so of your time. We try our best to help everyone. However, our slots fill up quickly. So I can only guarantee a complimentary meeting for the next 5 people that contact us right now. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. That is your number to call or text 520-333-7601. Now, perhaps you're driving in your car right now and you can't call at the moment. Well, then as soon as it's safe, you can certainly make a call to Mark's office, and you don't have to talk to anybody today. Just leave your contact information in a message, or whether that be a phone call or a text, and the number to call is 520-333-7601. Once again, call or text 520-333-7601. Someone with Mark's office, which is Silverman & Associates in Tucson, will get back with you, and then you can set a time to come in and have a conversation. No obligation and no cost. I'm Ron Stutz, along with Mark Silverman, certified financial planner professional, the founder and the managing member of Silverman & Associates. There's more coming up on today's edition of Saving with Silverman.
Picture this. Your financial statements have come in the mail. What's going through your head as you open them up? Maybe all that financial jargon is flustering. Maybe the numbers are confusing, or maybe those red arrows are leaving you in a funk. Don't base your future on a monthly letter. Keep listening to Saving with Silverman. Learn what true financial planning really looks like.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman. I'm Ron Stutz along with Mark Silverman. Mark's website address is savingwithsilverman.com. Always love that address because it's so easy to remember, savingwithsilverman.com. And your number to call, if you'd like to get in touch with Mark's office, is 520-333-7601. You can call or text, if you prefer, 520-333-7601. Mark Silverman's on the radio every week. And every week, Mark, we get great questions from some of our listeners. Our first question on the request line today comes in from Vale. And Albert says he wants to know if he should start his Social Security at the age of 62 in order to help pay off his house before he retires. What do you think?
Well, Albert, that's a great question. I mean, what you want to consider is if you're still working and you take Social Security prior to full retirement age, which is probably somewhere between 66 and age 67, you're going to have to pay some of that Social Security back. The other thing is, too, if you're working that Social Security part of it, either 50 or 85% of it, is also going to be taxable. So you have to consider that as well. So typically what I would recommend is not doing that because of the fact that you're going to have to pay some of it back, plus you're going to pay taxes on it, and you're giving up a pretty big benefit. You lose about 8% per year, not about, but exactly 8% compounded per year for each year that you defer it to up until age 70. So it's a great question. We have a report that we run when a part of our planning process where we'll actually run the numbers and show you exactly what your Social Security is, how you can maximize it versus at the various ages, et cetera. But great question.
Okay, yeah, really good question today from Albert in Vale. And Albert, a lot of things to consider, so best to come in and have a conversation with Mark about all that. He can't really give you a specific answer because, he just needs to know more about your situation. Diana in Marana has a question. Diana says, I've heard about a strategy using life insurance to create income for myself in retirement. Is this a legitimate strategy?
It really is. It depends on how you set it up, though. So what you're doing is you're not using term, you're using a permanent product. It's whole life insurance, universal life, et cetera. It's used for income in retirement that you're borrowing against, so it's not taxable. We do this a lot with self-employed people because they don't have pensions, et cetera. So a lot of self-employed people will use life insurance to create income in retirement using life insurance. So if it's done correctly, it certainly can be done, but you want to make sure you're using the right type and figuring out what the numbers look like. You've got to be insurable, of course, because it still is insurance, et cetera. But it can be used to do that, and it can cover other things too, such as long-term care, et cetera.
Sure could present some interesting options, no question about that. And Mark Silverman can help you find out exactly what it can do for you and help you answer all your questions. Saving with Silverman is the name of our program, and you're listening to the Request Line segment of our show. And we have one more question here for Mark. And Mark, this question is from Victoria in Midvale Park. Victoria says her husband wants to leave a lot of money to the kids, but she's worked hard to be able to retire and doesn't want to scrimp and save the rest of her life. What do you see as a reasonable amount to leave as a legacy?
Well, Victoria, that's a great question. It really depends. I mean, if you have a certain amount that you want to leave to your kids or your husband has a certain amount, that's certainly nothing wrong with that. We work with so many different people. Some people feel that they want to leave a certain amount to the kids, and there's nothing wrong with that. We have others that say, well, we want to enjoy our lifestyle and whatever's left over is left over. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that either. But if you have a certain amount that you want to leave, if it's going to be, used for education or you want to pay for something, down payment on a house, whatever it might be, that's how you could base the number on. But there's no right or wrong as far as how much to leave. It's more a personal preference. And that sounds like a discussion that you and your husband need to have to figure out what the right amount is, how much you want to leave. But again, there's no right or wrong, but great question.
Mark, I know that you work with a lot of people who run the gamut on that opinion. Some people, it's very important for them to be able to leave a legacy to their children or their church or synagogue or whatever the case may be. And others want that last check to the undertaker to bounce. They don't want to leave anything behind.
That's the perfect estate plan.
It's kind of a matter of personal preference, really, and no right and wrong, just like you said. If folks have questions about leaving a legacy or about their life insurance questions or Social Security, certainly there's a lot of questions to be answered in that category, and they want to come in and have a conversation with you, what happens when they walk into your office?
I want to thank everybody for the great questions. And if you have a question you'd like to submit, just go to the website, which is savingwithsilverman.com. Click on the media tab, and then there's a place to submit your question, and maybe you'll get to hear it here on the air. But now's my chance to ask you a question, and can you answer it honestly and objectively as possible? Aside from the happy hellos and how's the family, and aside from the occasional lunch or golf game, I mean, I get it. I'm as much friends with many of my clients. They become true friends over the many years. But I think the question has to be asked, especially in light of the stakes. Is your current financial advisor truly adding value beyond a doubt? And I'll repeat, is your current financial advisor truly adding value? It's a valid question, as a friendship or just relationship allows you not to be in a position to ask those critical questions. Are you talking about taxes? Are you talking about Social Security and income and risk and diversification and insurance and estate planning and healthcare? Are you having those annual reviews? But hopefully it's more frequently than that. Is there detailed follow-up? Is there accountability? If you are, if all of that is happening, congratulations, because you've got a great relationship, and send your financial advisor a thank you. But if you're not having that, if you're not feeling the value, if you're not having these in-depth conversations, then you owe it to yourself and really to your family to have a conversation with someone else, because if you don't, you're the one that's going to suffer. You're the one that's going to pay the cost, and it'll cost you in more ways than you'll ever know. Let us prove to you how we can help your money go further in retirement. Let us show you with our financial physical. I believe you'll be surprised at what you'll learn, and this won't cost you anything. Give us a call or send us a text to 520-333-7601, 520-333-7601. That's 520-333-7601, or check us out online at savingwithsilverman.com. That's savingwithsilverman.com. Please don't procrastinate, because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
520-333-7601. As Mark said, you can call that number or you can send a text to it. A lot of people prefer to text these days, and that's fine too. Just leave your contact information, and certainly if you're texting, leave your first and last name. 520-333-7601. And then a member of Mark's team will call you back first part of the week, and you can come to a conclusion about when you might want to come in for a conversation. You can arrange a convenient time and come in, sit down, and have a conversation with Mark. No obligation at all. It's not going to cost you a penny. Just come in and get an assessment of things. The planning process is called the financial physical. And when you want to sit down and talk with Mark, you can sit down and give him more specifics about your situation, more specifics than the folks who sent in questions today were able to give. So just keep that in mind. Come in, have a conversation. It's not going to cost you anything. You can walk away at the end, but you're going to learn a lot. You may become a client, you may not, and that's fine too. 520-333-7601. Call or text 520-333-7601. Join us again next week for the next edition of Saving with Silverman.
Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, product, service, or investment strategy. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified advisor, tax professional, or attorney before implementing any strategy or recommendation discussed herein.